There's only one way to say this. You messed up. You blew it. You goofed.
Jedi Pop, that's like 3 different ways.
You've seen the show, and like us, you have questions.
Ooh, that was a good one, but try this one on for size.
No question should be left off your list.
Whoa. I got a crazy theory, but hear me out.
But you better have some spares.
Oh, that was one of mine. All right, let's do this instead.
With me, as always, is my friend and Card Squadron winger.
This is Greg Cass, a.k.a. Ion Canon.
We've recorded at home and across the U.S.
Last summer, we were from the Boston Common. This week, we're in Chicago.
This is day 3 of celebration.
The show has had many names, but the purpose is the same. Let's share some time at the table.
Ding ding, it's time for breakfast.
Welcome to the Breakfast Pack, a Rebel Base Card micro podcast series. A returning Rebel Base Card podcast series that asks more questions than it answers. Today on Rebuilding the Breakfast, number 89. We're talking about the second 2 parts of Rebuilding the Galaxy, which premiered on Disney Plus Friday, September 13th. With me is my co-host and Card Squadron winger, Gregory Cass from IonCanon.com. Greg, it has been a hot second since we've seen you. How you been?
I've been great. I was just giggling to myself when you said Rebuilding Breakfast 89. I was imagining somebody doing 89 episodes about just these Lego specials, but
don't put it past our community. We just haven't found that particular podcast yet.
No, I'm solid. It's been a very stressful fall, so I'm really glad to just zone out of work for a little while and talk about some Star Wars and get some hot breakfast because, I think we're both eagerly anticipating Skeleton Crew in about 6 weeks and change. But it's nice to, again, enjoy these shows. And I will say, I just watched these for my third time all the way through, and my kids have watched them every time. They would watch these all the time if they could. So it's fun to get to chat about them.
You're onto something because I think even like my daughter I was like doing the rewatch for the original time we were going to record this, and she was into it. She liked, Darth Devastator, and I didn't think she didn't really care about like some of the rest of the story, but it was just entertaining. And I'm like, I think that's what, kind of the legacy of it is like no matter what, you're into Lego. And I think the Lego movies, whether, like the Lego movies or the Batman one, really, it's one of those where it really kind of paved a lot of way, built a lot of road for a lot of people to kind of go, you know what, I don't have to worry about understanding this. It's just an entertaining story. And if I recognize some of the characters, it's okay.
I think that's right. And I would add to that with a brand of humor, right? Kind of a slapsticky, goofy, tongue-in-cheek sense of humor that has existed since the first Star Wars Lego video games, but has, blossomed in those traditional animated feature films. I will admit there's one in theaters right now, which I have not seen, which is the biopic version of Pharrell's life, which is animated in Lego for, I'm not entirely sure why. It seems like Pharrell just didn't want to do the kind of traditional thing and loves Lego. So he had it all animated as Lego. I've heard some positive things. I don't think it set the box office on fire. It says something that I haven't made it to it because I make it to pretty much everything, but it is on my list of, when we get down past the new releases on one of these weeks where I have a second or third trip to the movies, I might check it out still because it looks fun.
2 things about that is that I didn't see a whole lot of press for it, not a lot of trailers like normally we would, but I also chalk that up, and you're in the throes of this. It's like, when you have kids, there's a good 2 decades where there's nary an animated feature that gets past you, or at least within the sphere of like, and I like if I go back from like what Shrek to like like the Lego movie or something like, there's pretty much everything I've seen, all the Disney stuff, all the Pixar stuff, the DreamWorks stuff. So it's just one of those where when it kind of falls out where the kids are old enough where that's not like an automatic, right? It is sort of weird when you kind of go, oh, that's right. Well, there's something else in, and maybe that's why the last couple of Pixar ones. I mean, I still do have to see, and I think it's on Disney Plus, What's the one that made $1 billion, but now I can't remember what its name is?
Inside Out 2.
Thank
The
you.
new one. Yeah.
See, this is what happens where you just kind of go, oh yeah, they're doing another one of those. Or whatever Kung Fu Panda we're on now, what 10, 11? They made a ton of those.
I mean, you're right. That you're describing my year so far. Kung Fu Panda in March, Garfield in May, Inside Out in June, Wild Robot, Despicable Me, Transformers 1. There's been a lot of animated movies this year, but I think the Pharrell one is skews a little older, right? Like I don't think my kids see it as I think they could see it, but I don't think they see it as something they want to see. So that might also be a part of it. You really have to be a fan. But and then we have Moana 2.
Oh, that's right.
Still to come. And I think there's one. Oh, there's the animated Lord of the Rings movie, which Long Take review listeners know as one of PT's hype draft picks, is coming, I think, at Christmas time. So the animated, best animated feature Oscar category. By any means, we could have. Oh, and there's a Wallace and Gromit movie this year too. I don't know if you're a fan of them, but there's one more of those coming. So.
I like the style, and I especially liked it when it was they did that one for Visions season 2, where you had I forget what the mother and daughter and Wedge. And
Wedge, of course.
We may be burying the lead here because speaking of rebuilding the breakfast, 3 and 4, we do get a good look at the beginning of episode 3 with the Dark Falcon. And I do believe you have some news to report on this particular front. And I think it's probably as good a place as any to start.
Yeah, so it's actually very funny. So my up here in my neck of the woods this coming weekend is Rhode Island Comic-Con. And Providence, Rhode Island's like an hour's drive from Boston. So I was planning to go because they have a few Star Wars guests, including Michelle Ang, who voices Omega. Now I was doing it in the accent. Omega from Bad Batch. And I started doing the math on it, and I was like, okay, it would be great to get her autograph. No disrespect to her. She should charge whatever she can get. But she was charging $70. Which that to me, I think that's what I paid for like Billy D. Williams. And I love Bad Batch dearly. You know that better than anybody. But
yes.
I was like, that's a little high for her talent. And again, she should charge what she can get. But I was like, I don't know. That's a little much.
You know what? Sadly, though, it's, as I was looking, because I know we have the sort of the late Chicago Sports Spectacular. And so we have a lot of guests, including they're doing a cast, or at least a partial cast, of A League of Their Own. I think Gina Davis will be there and a few others. But actually, to be fair, the more excited I was, they're actually having some people who actually played in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League that I was more excited. I'm like, I would definitely like to get an autograph and get a chance to talk to them for a couple minutes. But yeah, when you talk about like $70, especially with the prevalence of, the fan expos and all that, that's not necessarily out of the realm anymore because a lot of these folks who make the rounds, it's like, the bargains are hard to find these days.
Harder and harder. So anyway, I did the math, and it was like $100 for the passes and $70 for the one autograph we'd want, and then you throw in parking, gas, lunch, the inevitable whining for everything under the sun out there on the convention floor. I was like, well, I'm coming out of that at like $250, $300 easily, So I left it up to my son. I said, okay, here's the deal. You've wanted to do a Lego set. I can buy us a nice Lego set, or I can take you to go to the Fan Expo. Either way, we're going to spend Saturday together. What do you want to do? And he said, order that Dark Falcon. So that's the route we did. And it was funny because my wife was not so sure of the price, but as we record this on the 28th of October, I believe for a week, there's a gift. If you spend $135 at Lego.com, you get this little set that is somebody. It's a woman sitting in an easy chair with a bookshelf, and my wife's like, "I love that. I just want that. That's a beautiful little Lego set." So, so she was willing to sign off on the higher price. So it was a conspiracy of all of us to justify the credit card bill. But he's very excited. I told him when we were watching it tonight, and my daughter, who's only 4, pointed at it, and she said, "We have the gray one of those, but we don't have the black one." And Henry said, "Oh, we're going to very soon." And it comes with Darth Jar Jar. It comes with White Vader. It comes with Dark Ray. So there's a good set of minifigures with it. Darth Devastator. So it should be really fun. And now I'm, of course, going to have to go pick up the Jedi Bob that comes with Servo and, the little Starfighter. I think that's a $40 set, which Lego prices are ridiculous, but I'm there. That's a great little set, too.
Oh, that's awesome. I know that Anthony King from Force Ghost Conversations talked about he was able to get that at D23. I think he was like in a raffle or it was a prize or something. And there was, it was an issue getting that home because that's not a thin box. It's a pretty big box.
Yeah.
But that's a great build. Yeah, I was in Target over the weekend, and I know it's been out for a little while, but there's like that. It didn't look like it was saying it was like one of the microfighters, but you have Captain Rex in his Y-wing, and I've been kind of eyeing that because for me, yes, the cost would be a factor, but space is at an incredible premium. So I'm sitting here like, all right, I got to rid out some more so I can make room. But I really love. I would really love to have a Lego Captain Rex. I mean, come on. But I already have like the Zori Bliss, Y-wing from Rise of Skywalker. So I'm like, anyway, okay, maybe I just get the Lego figure off of eBay and then they can share. In my Lego world, yes. But at any rate, but yeah, but it was not as hard because. On a recent episode I had, we did the Topps Disney deal, parts 1 and 2. And on 2, I talked to Sal Berry from the Puck Junk podcast. And he does, it's a hockey card podcast. But he talked about, like, because it's Upper Deck and all that. But he'd been wanting to talk to me about the Comtech reader and figures from the late 90s. And, that episode, that part of the episode, I kind of like, I chopped off, and we're going to have that in a few weeks. But the Comtech reader I was fascinated by because I was like, whoa, I was overseas when all this came out, and I understand everybody having, the 5 or 6 Darth Mauls, but the Comtech reader, and I was like, what is this? Did you ever have any of those figures?
I had many of the chips, so I bought a lot of Episode 1 figures. Actually, my purchase at Midnight Madness, which was, I believe, my mom driving me to the Ames department store, which is a regional to like New York and New England. And I got Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul, and I kind of posed them on the dashboard of my car in a little Duel of the Fates setup. And so I had those 3 Comtechs, and I think I still have them kicking around because I had them forever. But I never actually purchased the reader.
Oh, wow.
Because, it was always, I think it was $20, which isn't much. But when it's 3 action figures or the reader, it was always the 3 action figures. So I never picked one up. But you did, which is awesome.
Yeah. Funny you should mention $20 because with shipping it came out to $20. I think it was, because Sal was demonstrating the reader, and I'm like, all right, I got to have one of those because I'm like, I can find a place for about that kind of, because it's like, but yeah, I also didn't realize that in my Celebration Anaheim swag, because I still have it all together in a box. It's one of those where it's like a time capsule. But I didn't realize someone had given me a Comtech chip. And I'm like, oh, my God, I've got one of these things. But, yeah, so I think you could find them loose. Oddly enough, loose and sealed were about the same price. And I was like, for a couple bucks more, I'll get it sealed. It's not going to stay sealed. I hate to break it to people. I'm like, no. This thing's coming out. I just wanted something that was in really great shape to begin with. I love the fact that it comes with a belt clip because of course I'm going to put it on my belt. But hey, if I'm 10, it's a different story. If I'm 54, it might go on a belt. But it also includes the chain. There's like a little bead chain. Yeah. Like every one of my little light like chains that fail all the time, and I have to kind of like so it comes like that, and it's like the whole pitch of it is like you can put all your chips on a chain and carry it around on your belt, and you're like, who? I want to know what was the pitch meeting for this, because I'm like, this is insane. However, it's something where I'm like, okay, I've got to have it. I probably what I'll do is for the show, I'll probably try to record some of the voices. I'll have to figure out, like, I'm assuming it's battery operated. I got to find the right batteries, and then kind of see if I can record, because some of the sounds that he was getting off some of his chips didn't sound like it was the actual recording. It sounded like whoever it was, and they just had to throw it through like an 8-bit type filter, whatever they were doing in 99 or 98, 99, and you're like, some sounded pretty close, others were like, nah, it's not even close. But the Comtech reader comes with like a exclusive one that had like, I think there was a Jar Jar, there was an Obi. I think they just had a random thing of voices. So we'll have to see if that technology still holds up, 25 years later. But it is kind of funny that, I don't know. You wonder what's still going to resonate many years later. And that's, of course, what, Rancho Obi-Wan is founded on. But at any rate, but yeah, I was kind of curious. Now, did you keep any of your Phantom Menace stuff, or was there a, during the dark times of the Greg Cass fandom that you had to get rid of some of it?
No, I think I have most of whatever I bought. It's lesser. I was a very serious collector from 95 up until the prequel. I was a little more selective for each of the 3 prequel films, just because for me, that's about when I was going to college. And so, I didn't have as much money, and to the space issue, I also didn't want to be the guy with the dorm room full of action figures, right? Wanted to have a shot at a social life. So, and you're mentioning the re-records. I think that a lot of them are not the actual actors, because that's right when Robin Williams and Disney got in a huge fight about the toys for the genie, right? I think Aladdin's a little before that, but there was such big controversy that people were protective over their voice, and you couldn't just pour it over sound bites as much as you could. So I have a few. I think I have those action figures in the bin. I also, I think just this summer I bought a Chancellor Valorum, because I went in a secondhand store with a bin of like 15 Chancellor Valorums, and the disrespect was terrible. But I'm also, this is not for listeners, I'm dropping into the chat. One thing I did buy this summer is one of our favorite creators that you and I share is Nerd Matters. And Nerd Matters did a pin of the ComCheck reader, which is something I bought myself for the Phantom Menace anniversary. And so he did the full reader, and it does come with the chain, like you're saying. That's why I was nodding along, like, yep, I know there's a chain. And then he made a set of different little, like, ComTech chips you can then put on your reader and magnet them on, so you can have your ComCheck pin showing whichever. God. You want. I mean, I share that with you not to tempt you, but just to celebrate at Nerd Matters for people who don't know him. His most recent pin is the episode 1 Pepsi machine, which
I have that one. As soon as
I need to get that one. I was like, that is such a good one too. And he's, I think we both met him separately at Anaheim, and he's just
I did not get a chance to meet him.
Oh, you didn't? No, he would drop on his Instagram like, I'm at this palm tree for the next 15 minutes. Come grab some swag. And I did. And I'm like, I'm Greg in Boston. And he's like, oh, yeah, I send things to you all the time. I'm like, I know. And he just like opened up his bag, and he had 7 or 8 things for that celebration, plus 7 or 8 for the celebration that got canceled due to the pandemic. And he just like loaded me up. I just stood there, and he filled like a big bag for me, and it was all the highest quality stuff and really nice stuff. So I always recommend Nerd Matters, a great member of the Star Wars community, and these are a fun bit of his creativity.
Yeah, he also had done some cards as well. I think I picked up in Chicago, but yeah, I think I've missed him. It's just one of those where I'm like, nah, just wrong place, wrong time. I know I almost caught the Left Coast Graphics guy who also does, there's a few like Punch It Chewy Express and some great pin and patch makers out there. But yeah, the Pepsi machine does not disappoint. But I could see this I could see this Comtech reader set like, yeah, that might have to come home this year. But anyway, but you know what's funny is that, you know, when we go back to the Dark Falcon, you know, it's kind of how, you know, episode 3 does kind of open up. And you have, you know, they're still kind of in the throes of the, you know, the dark, you know, the dark figures versus, you know, Jedi Bob and Sig and all that. And as they're on the run and Luke kind of comes in to save the day, it really kind of, you know, moves this story along. And some great cameos to come. What are some of kind of your takeaways for, you know, the episode 3 of this?
I think episode 3 is where this set of shows really opens up and just starts getting totally wacky in the most delicious ways, right? In the ways a Lego show should. And, you know, we talked about this last time, but the philosophy of these are just kids cracking open their toy box, having as much fun as possible. And so that opening battle, which has all those figures kind of fighting it, feels like I would play when I was a kid, you know, have a giant battle going on. And then Luke coming in the pod racer and going upside down and grabbing it. It's like I could see the child's hand turning that over in the game so that Luke could grab that away from it. And it's all the sweeter because it's Mark Hamill kind of saying these goofy things as a part of that. So I love that opening. How did you feel about the opening? I'll save my favorite part of this episode for just another minute. But how did you feel about the opening?
You know, it's one of those where it's like now I'm kind of, you know, because I don't have the history with the kids program. So like Nubs, I am aware of the cult of Nubs, and I am you know I'm just waiting out for one of these. I'm going to punch my ticket, but I'm like having all those, like especially like, you know, Darth Ray and Dark Rose and all those, and they are. Darth Rose, and they are all kind of going at it, but still, you know, it's like it's always kind of funny to see how like angry Darth Dev is all the time, which is really kind of interesting. But yeah, they're going along, and then they have to go. You know, they're trying to escape, and the funny part is like when the Dark Falcon comes in, and it all of a sudden has like a Darth, like has a Death Star type weapon on it, and it's just kind of cutting through, and they have to kind of escape, you know, into sort of like a, I don't know, it's like some kind of like fish, you know, like where they're putting like dead fish and all this kind of stuff, which is funny. But I do think one of my big takeaways from that is when they are getting cornered by Darth Jar Jar. And you're just like, oh my God, here's some great lines from Ahmed Best. And then of course, as soon as he gets like that big skeleton brought on top of him, you get that how wooed. And it just cracks me up. It's like the timing of some of the jokes in this. You know, unfortunately, you know, Nubs doesn't last long in this one. But I love the fact that D. Bradley Baker's doing for the 2 seconds of voice that you hear him, it's kind of amazing. And I thought I heard a Jawa at some point because I keep anyway.
Yes.
It's hard.
All right. Yeah, there's a dark Jawa there as one of the Inquisitors. Yes, and I mean I think this podcast is very pro Ahmed Best, and the fact that, you know, we've already celebrated how he came back in Mandalorian and kind of got to own his role in Star Wars again, and this is just him having like a great time, and I have to assume a pretty good payday to get Mark Hamill, Ahmed Best, I believe Kelly Marie Tran, and spoiler for episode 4, the person who shows up at the very end are all the real actors. The Rey is a pretty good sound alike, and I actually didn't check about Jana, but I was impressed that Jana really sounded like the actress for that character as well.
Oh, and I have all those here. I thought, give me just a second, because I know that Shelby Young, I know, does Princess Leia, and if I did,
who I believe is from Resistance, right? She's had the Leia role in voice acting for a little while.
Yeah, because she did. I thought at that in Rebels as well. And I'm looking, and Darth Ray. Oh, nope, that's Dark Dev. I was like, I had it, then I was like, no. Why is that the one that I'm missing? So I have just about everybody else.
She has a very small role, but But yeah, but I mean, it's great that they
Yeah.
got anybody who's the real role, and I'm pretty sure last time we gave credit to Tony Daniels, who will do 3PO anywhere, anytime for the right paycheck. But I think it's really fun that my impression is that they all say, "Hey, this is for fun and for kids. Let's take a little money, but let's just do this mostly for the kids to celebrate these characters."
Oh, and I will put in a spoiler for episode 4, but having Naomi Aki.
Yes, it is
as
her.
Jedi Jenna. And you're just
Okay.
like, "Pfft, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was a very good sound alike, so that tells me I underestimated it. And she's great. She had a big fun movie come out this fall called Blink Twice, which is a tough watch in some ways, but it's really fun. And she's excellent in it.
Oh, awesome. It's interesting because we kind of get into when they have to go, when they escape and they have to go and they seek out the Jedi, who are in sort of this contraption, sort of a mashup of a Jedi Sandcrawler and Adat Walker, that you have these, and it's funny, like some of these Jedi don't really talk too much, but it's funny who they have chosen. And I had to go back a couple times, and I was surprised, like, yeah, only one of them is referred to as a master, Jedi Master Palpatine. The rest of them are all Jedi, Jedi Cad Bane, Jedi Jabba, Vader, Lobot.
It is. Yeah, I was gonna say Lobot is the one that took the cake. So the Jedi Council is my favorite part of this particular episode because this is where they really get to shine. And so right past the movie theater I always go to, and it's in a kind of a mall that's falling to pieces, but there's still a Hallmark store, which we don't have many of those left, but there's still a Hallmark store. And inside the window, there's a basket full of there's a display of itty bitties. And so Hallmark is almost always closed when I'm there at the movies going to my like 9 p.m. screenings. But through the window, I can see a big basket full of itty bitty Lobots. And I always joked that like there's just a basket full of Lobots. I just got to adopt them all and take them all home. And so my son knows that I love going and I just go to the window and I check on the Lobots like they're in a pet store or something. And so finally it was open one day and we went in and we did buy Lobot. And my son did the very funny thing where he like pretended it was for him with the clerk when the clerk was asking questions, even though it's for dad.
This kid is wise beyond his years.
Yes, absolutely. So then I do have one now, but Lobot has always had a sweet spot in my heart because he's just such a great little character. And to see him pop up there, it felt to me like the Jedi were like, let's just put people who everybody loves in there. And Count Dooku and Cad Bane, Jabba getting a good gag, falling on Luke in the 4th episode, I believe. So it's lots of fun.
And Jedi IG-88. But
that's what a kid would do, right? Like that's why this is the perfect kind of fun. Let's not, be grumpy about anything. Let's just have a good time and pretend IG-88 can be a Jedi.
Yes, and of course, as they're getting ready to kind of hatch their plan, and of course we have, Han Solo and Greedo and Princess Leia show up in sort of the Greedo-ish, Boba Fett starship. Sort of like now I'm trying to think of like what it might be called now. With the extra ones, but yes, as soon as they go find the rebel base, which I think now was on Dagobah.
Yep. It's an Imperial base with captured rebels on Dagobah.
Okay. Now you have that, and so at the end of episode 3, you've got the one crew that is caught there, that's imprisoned with General Grievous and Yoda there, and of course as we get set, it's kind of as we go into like episode 4, as they go back to they're about ready to put in the stone into the temple when of course Dev shows up and then takes everything and he's getting ready. And I think to me, of these two, one of the more powerful scenes is when they go back to Dev and Sig's home planet and they remake it using, their combined, force and the builder and the Sith breaker. and it's really kind of like it's sort of one of those things where you can kind of go, wow, it's amazing, and you see the planet kind of like shift around, but it is sort of like one of those like, wow, this was actually quite a powerful weapon.
Well, I mean, you just buzzed through so many things I have to talk about.
Go for it.
The Han Solo Greedo gag totally worked on me, and I laughed very hard. I also thought of fandom's Holly Fry, who is the biggest Rodian obsessive I've ever seen. And I immediately thought of her and how happy she would be that Leia and Greedo were together. But they played that for a lot of comedy, and that was great. And then I really loved that the little prisoners are all looking like they're about to go on program from Andor, that they brought that uniform over. And eventually there, it might not be till the 4th episode, we do see Mon Mothma is one of the prisoners among them. So there's this little flavor of Andor. And I like that because Andor for me remains the like gold standard of Disney era Star Wars. I love Last Jedi, but like I think I still take Andor over that even perhaps. I don't know, that's a little strong, but certainly for the TV shows, that's the one for me. And so to see them still playing with that, even though that's kind of the serious one, the like prestigious one, was really fun. And my kids love that Grievous and Yoda are like prison yard buddies, and I do too. It's really funny and silly, and I like when they have Yoda pretend to be dying so that they get help from all the Akbars. I mean, it's so funny to imagine these sentences I'm saying being teleported to somebody 10 years ago and wondering what they would make of them all, because it's all very silly. But all of that leads to what I think you're absolutely right to say is like the emotional heart of this. And it's pretty unexpected how powerful it is when you get the two brothers confronting each other and having this kind of face off. And a pretty serious choice, right? That like, are you going to, I mean, it's classic Star Wars. Are you going to selfishly accept what you want? Or are you going to give it up for the good of the galaxy and the good of everyone? So, it's kind of a classic mythological temptation scene, but it's a lot of fun, and it plays with this world we've created and these rules that we've created, which are just absurd, but like you actually feel them as stakes in the moment you're describing.
Another thing that I really like as we kind of like are kind of rolling into episode 4 was the final space battle, which I thought, first starts off with, with Jedi Bob and Sig in their sort of like their Jedi starfighters. But then you've got, the Rebel fleet. I think some of the Rebel fleet show up, as well as C-3PO and the Ewoks, who I think I prefer them in this role, I think, than I do actually to the Ewoks in our quote unquote universe, because but I thought the flyovers in the battle, I'm like, this was really a good space battle for Star Wars.
That's what struck me tonight is I'm like, oh, they've really paid attention to the camera work, and there are shots that are reminiscent of Return of the Jedi and I would say Rogue One, right? That really take you back to those moments and help you piece that together. And it's a heck of a lot of fun. I mean, I love C-3PO's Naboo starfighter. I don't know how well these Rebuild the Galaxy sets are selling, and if they'll do another round from this or wait till a season 2. But it does feel like those are just itching to be made into actual Lego sets by creators, if not by the official company. My favorite gag, though, so if you are a modern Lego collector like my son is primarily, but I also partake in, every time you buy a big set, you get one of those dang brick separators. And how hilarious that Darth Devastator's flagship is done up like one of those separators, that in the world of Lego Star Wars, it is him who takes things apart and breaks apart your world. And it's a little subtly done. So
I had no idea.
We were both at first like, that's a really ugly spaceship. But if you Google right now your classic Lego brick separator, which is a little orange tool, it is shaped exactly like that. God. And it's a really good gag for kind of the more Lego minded people who might be watching, in addition to the Star Wars people. But a great bit of action, and I do love those little starfighters, and I would buy the Ewok ships. I would buy C-3PO ships. I haven't plunked down the money for the X-Wings and TIE fighters with the flipped wings. They're fine, but not my favorite. But there's a lot of really fun creativity here.
Oh, I would definitely lay down like if they did like the microfighters where you had the, the flipped X fighters and the TIE wings. I'm like, and
Yeah.
or the, put the Ewok pilot in. I'm like, yeah, I would definitely I'd be down for one of those. But I did kind of like, and I think it shows me like when I see Anthony Daniels, I see sort of like the evil C-3PO, of course, with that nod to the Rise of the Skywalker. But also, I kept thinking of what is it, 000 from
from Afra.
From Afra. I'm going, you know what? I think it's about time we have them in a series, whether it's live action or whether it's animated, because I think him and what's the droid's name?
BTU-1. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Wait. Is that the? Who's that guy? That's BD-1 behind me. The Jedi Cal's droid is BD-1. Oh man, Director Bennick is gonna hear this and he's gonna tear me to shreds. Dr. Afra.
There will be a slight pause as we go to the internet.
As we Google. No, I'm right. Oh, I'm totally right. 000 and BT1. Yes, BT-1. Phew. Man, I was about to have to give up the Ion Canon sign on the hand, pass it on to somebody else. That is correct. It is very close to BD-1, which is, I think, what got in my head, that it's similar. But yeah, those two droids, after we saw Black Chrysanthemum in Book of Boba Fett, a series that nobody talks about anymore, that we needed, I'm ready for an Afra show. And I think I don't know that Disney Plus wants to be adapting materials directly, but of the things that are out there to adapt, I think Afra would be the best one, certainly.
And given those characters, because I love Chrysanthemum. I mean, I'd like to see a little more. It's hard because in an animated series right now we have had more serious ones and ones that weren't necessarily for kids. If you think of some of the Visions ones. It would be a tougher sell, but I think I could take an Afra animated series. I know that the comic when it first came out I didn't quite latch on, but I do appreciate all the characters there, and I'm like going, you know what? I should have given that one a second look around again. And as a matter of fact, going off on a tangent, I finally broke down and bought my first comics. I got the Jakku Rising 1 and 2, which I know that
good stuff.
It took a couple of
Ross
times.
Holloway
got
into your head, and he said, "Get those comics." So yeah, and well done, Ross, because those are really excellent. If you struggle with the Afra comic, the Afra audiobook is really good. They did an audio drama that's essentially the first arc of the Afra comics, and it works really well as an adaptation. One of those full production audio originals they do was Dr. Afra. I believe Sarah Kuhn that, so it's great.
I will have to give that a listen to. But yeah, I thought 3PO really worked well there, and I was like, I'd like to take that a little further because that's an interesting character arc. But then again, as we get kind of to the end of this, there were some things that fixed themselves, but of course, it felt like it was leaving a lot of doors open when the show came to the close. And like I said, if you want to circle back, that's fine. But I was kind of curious what you felt about as far as like as the show ended or the ending of it, and what are some thoughts that you have on that?
Oh, I was shocked that this was left open-ended because I think, we've been trained of late. The other Lego offerings in recent years have been kind of one-off specials, and they're kind of a complete story and they're over. And in hindsight, it kind of makes sense because they did a lot of work to establish this new galaxy. Why would you just shut that down? But to have the kind of climax of the story be guaranteeing that this galaxy continues, it kind of felt to me like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, right? It's like, okay, let's spill this into a new timeline and we can do whatever we want. In their case, they were like, let's do Wrath of Khan second. That will be fun and different. But I did, sorry, just a parting shot at that second one. But I do think it's really a great idea to keep this going. And I was really excited by the ending. It's funny because I think longtime Breakfast Club members will note, I think I'm frustrated that Ahsoka was so open-ended, But I think it's because there's no stakes here, and the richness of continuing this story is worth it to me, and just to have fun and to be playful. I was very much shocked though, and as soon as they kind of revealed that they've given up their galaxy, like that's a classic hero moment to sacrifice, and to think about how now he gets to be the storyteller in this galaxy to tell these stories in another word. I mean, he can write the equivalent of the Harry Potter books here, just be the adventures of those characters in the other galaxy, and he'll do very well. But it was great, and I have not heard about season 2. I don't think that surprises me. They tend to like basically complete these and then tell us, oh yeah, it's coming out next month, right? We don't get a ton of buildup for them. But I fully expect that we'll get season 2 next summer, maybe stretch it to 6 or 8 episodes because these seem popular, and the merchandising is just so easy that Lego will help pay the bills if Disney Plus doesn't like to do it.
Yeah, you bring up a good point that, with the backing of Lego and what we had the 25th anniversary of Lego Star Wars, how it's kind of saved them. So yeah, having Lego, basically almost underwrite, like, all right, yeah, keep this going, because it seemed to be they were pretty well supported on the Lego side. But also I could see at Celebration Japan them announcing another series of it, because I just, it's so easy and relatively cheap. I mean, the only thing you were paying for were the voices. I would love to see the voices, the cost of voices versus the cost of animation, and it'd be like, what percent of what is what? But especially with the last reveal, of course, the Landalorian.
Yeah.
The other thing is like, if you're going to do it, Billy D, he's still making the convention circuit, but he's not a spring chicken. So I'm like, if I were you and he was willing to do voice animation, I'd be like, get this man to voice anything. It doesn't matter. Build a story around him, and then make it work, because that is a great legacy.
Well, and I think that's the Lando live action show too. I think it's going to be, if anything, he'll, start in his easy chair talking to a voice recorder, and then we'll fade into Donald Glover having those adventures. But I think, I want them to take the time to get all these things right, but it is, he's a treasure that we shouldn't waste while he's waiting. Another Star Wars celebrity that I love dearly, but he'll show up for any paycheck at all. So I think it's worth getting right. And that is such a fun little tease. My daughter doesn't really fully understand Star Wars, but she knows who Baby Yoda is, and was like, what? Baby Yoda is here, and wants to see that adventure. And, what as we wrap it up, I just want to say, like, what this showed us, I think, is that Star Wars has such an incredible depth of characters, and the fact that I'm like hooting and hollering because Lobot's on the Jedi Council, like, that's insanity. But it shows how much we all care about these characters, and if done well, we can take them not so seriously, and we can take a few kind of jokes at our expense. I think it's very much, though not R-rated, it's very much in line with like Deadpool and Wolverine, kind of taking a few shots at Marvel fans and being like, hey, nerds, you take this all a little too seriously. And I think we deserve that, and we get that from time to time. So I like that here. I think it's understandable, but a shame we haven't seen the same depth of coverage we usually get. I know Dan did a great roundtable with some of the other creators and got some kind of preview stuff in like a junket style. I don't know that many other classic shows that we often talk about in the Greg's List covered Rebuild the Galaxy, but if somebody has somehow hung on this long without watching it, I would say absolutely put it on. And just have some laughs, and it's not something you need to, grip the edge of your chair and then write an angry Reddit post about how much canon it breaks. It's just fun, and it's worth a good laugh.
I love the fact, like going back to a couple lines where when Jedi Bob goes, Darth Jar Jar, how ridiculous.
Yes.
Or there was the one shot, I've had softer landings aboard Star Tours, and you're like,
yes.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, it was such a great mix because we had across the board, and everything just kind of, everything was jumbled up, but it all seemed to work together, and it was really kind of fun to see a lot of the cameos in this, whether or not they got a line or not. But yeah, it's just one of those where it's like, yeah, these, what a great metaphor. It's like this stuff all works together. It's all Star Wars, whether or not it's not a favorite character or not. It still served the story, and it was still really nice. But yeah, I kind of even thinking, I actually kind of liked Jedi Master Palpatine. I thought that was an interesting character, and when I go back and rewatch it, I'm like, I kind of like him more and more.
Well, and White Vader is a classic Marvel What If book, Star Wars Tales, I believe is what it was called. And so that's established, but also is fun. And oh God, the joke where he's like, oh, I filled them in on some family stuff, and you see Luke and Leia and Vader out trying to hash it out. Just fun and silly and stupid, but I really appreciate that Star Wars can be in this register sometimes. And I do think that speaks to the legacy of George. George gave Star Wars over to Family Guy. He worked a lot with the Robot Chicken guys to kind of have that fun, and those are kind of classic parody moments. The show they made, Star Wars Detours, seems to never be on the table, even though it's just sitting on a shelf somewhere on a server somewhere at Lucasfilm. But it would be fun to just kind of poke a hole in it and have a good time and not worry so much about being too precious about your fanboy focus group that's telling you what real fans want, even though they don't represent most of us.
Well, and also the fact that you can have multiple stories, and I think you could come back to in a season 2. I think there's plenty there, and there's plenty of characters. It's sort of like, if you ever play one of the actual Lego Star Wars games, and it's like the number of characters is enormous, and it doesn't really matter what you're pulling from. The other thing that I would love to have seen is what a Star Wars gallery episode this would have been, to see to talk to folks as they're going into the sound booth, and they would just be it would probably be just the most chill, this was fun doing it and showing how this was put together. They've done enough Lego Star Wars that it'd be fun to kind of poke behind the curtain, unless you have a sweatshop going somewhere that are cranking out cells left and right. I would, let's gallery everything. I'm down for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing beats Star Wars except Star Wars behind the scenes stuff, right? Absolutely tell us how this was made and let us see the people making the decisions, because it's clearly done out of love. They want to be fun and funny, but they clearly love the material deeply. You don't get Jedi Master Lobot if you're not a real fan or you're not deeply caring about this.
Which is funny, because I was watching some of the deleted scenes. A lot of times I'll, if I've got nothing going on, I'll put Light and Magic on, or I'll go into some of the legacy content, and that deleted scene where you get a little extra Lobot, and he still didn't savor it. He doesn't say anything, but he gets captured at one point, and I'm going if we'd only had a couple more minutes, you would have sold a whole lot more Lobots. They wouldn't have been such the peg warmers that they were. And I do need me a Lobot for my Kenner action figure collection. But
you're putting in my head, I'm saying, I think that actor has passed.
He has,
but I'm I got to track down a John Hollis action figure signed or something, some nice Lobot. Yeah, passed in 2005, so it's been a little while too.
He doesn't have
before the boom of auto cards and all that. So.
Yeah, and the stickers that Topps can use for, ad infinitum as we get ready for a new set. But speaking of which, we do have doing some homestead keeping here for upcoming episodes. What is your take on? Do you think we will see another Skeleton Crew trailer before you and I start sitting down and asking questions on him?
Yes. I mean, we've only really had a teaser, and they've been slowly leaking out stills, right? There was just a big press package of Empire Magazine, I believe, had a feature on this. And we got another picture of Neil, the little blue, not an ortolan, but whatever species Neil is. And people gobble it up. I mean, I see a lot of the fans I love online already worried about the harassment these poor children will face from the Star Wars theory at all. And people will absolutely need to back off because these are children and you're not going to harass them. You shouldn't be harassing Amanda Stenberg, but you should not be harassing children. So I think I would suggest here's what I would do. You're asking me, Disney marketing executive. I'd get another trailer out soon, and I'd throw it in theaters with Moana 2, because you're going to get a lot of families showing up. And why not tell them, hey, there's a little Star Wars family program coming this fall. I would put the first episode in theaters, right? Do these fan events, do something a little bigger, something closer to the Ahsoka episode 5, and get some buzz going on people who want to get there early and check it out. It's so fun when they put Star Wars in theaters. I've been so jealous of our UK friends. Daz, I know you're listening, Daz. I've been jealous of you every week. Because he's gotten to go to every Star Wars movie in theaters the last 9 weeks. And he just got tickets to go see Magpie with a Q&A with Daisy Ridley. Come on, Dad. Stop making me regret all my life choices and not move to the UK. So I think it would only make sense to start the real hype kind of around Thanksgiving. I imagine I haven't been a good Marvel fan lately. I think there's 1 or 2 Agathas left. I'm behind. I'll catch up because it's very good, but I'm behind. So I imagine when that show is over, that's where we'll see some real skeleton crew, because Disney Plus needs you to not cancel your subscription in between, right? They're targeting the casual folks and saying, no, don't bother canceling it this month because you're going to want us in December. And so I think that's where we'll see a real push. Let's get Jude Law out there. Who doesn't love Jude Law, right? Like, let's get promoting it. I think Carrie Condon, who was in the movie Banshees of Inisherin and was nominated for an Oscar, is incredible. And she's in this show. And it's like you barely see her in the trailer. I was talking to good old friend of the program, Jen Sobchakchai, and she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, she's in the trailer. Like, look, she's the teacher. And so, another big Oscar movies fan didn't even notice her. So I think it's coming. And I think this little lull has been nice because it's made people hungry and it's made people kind of lose the bad taste about Acolyte. I think, there's clearly a lot of fans of Neil and a lot of fans of this Shitsavanian wolf pirate coming out. Yes. So I think we'll be in big excitement time come mid-December, and then really busy through the holidays when we all are really busy anyway.
Exactly. I would expect maybe around Thanksgiving that we'll probably have maybe a fresh round of commercials when everybody is catching up on TV. I know that I'll probably be I need to give Agatha another look through because I've heard nothing but good things. But also I know my son went through Penguin on HBO, which I do need to go back and kind of watch. Some of this just requires a lot of like, all right, me time sitting down in front of, not when maybe a bunch of football's going on, which I got a lot of football this weekend. But it is one of those things where I'm like, I do need to go back and watch this. And just sort of like, take it all in. But I do expect that we will see one more big trailer. And then, it's going to be what we're going to start off on the 3rd with 2 episodes. And so that first one is going to be jam-packed as we kind of unpack that. And then it'll start to go for the next, because there's 8 episodes?
Yeah.
So then
I think that's right.
Yeah, so 6 more weeks after that. I'll be curious how they do the holidays. Are they going to take a breath through, like Christmas and New Year's, or are they just going to kind of like just, soldier through? So it'll be kind of curious how they handle that. And will it kind of end up, if my math is right, will it end up at the beginning of the year or not? I would assume. Yeah.
Well, and let's just say it as plainly as we can. If you're a friend of the program, speak up now to get on a Skeleton Crew episode. We'll need guests and we will come find you. But if you are interested, I know we have a few names that didn't make it on for Acolyte who were excited about it, and we'll find you and we want you on to celebrate this show, because maybe my math is off or maybe my knowledge is off, but I think this is the last announced live action show. We have Ahsoka season 2 eventually, but I don't think any other new shows have been announced. This is the last of that big package from before Celebration Anaheim. And I think it's a question mark whether we get more Mandalorian or if that's just now the feature film and moving on from there. So we'll see.
It'll be curious if they start Andor, kind of like what they did with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Andor. Oh my God. How did I forget Andor? Thank you.
Well, not just that, but like when. And they haven't really announced any dates, but would it be something where they show the first episode of Andor at Celebration Anaheim, which for them, it would be interesting because the time difference of when would it be, but it makes sense that maybe they do something there. Like I said, we'll definitely see some announcements, but you are right that after Skeleton Crew, it'll probably be pretty quiet until Celebration. So get get the popcorn ready because we're going to have to go through, and I'm kind of excited. I think I've got in on the Fantha Tracks review pool. I think I can.
Nice.
I just talked to Mark Newbold over at Fantha Tracks, so I'll be having to figure out how to get my best 1,000 words or something along those lines on while we are doing our breakfast packs. So a little double duty, but I'm excited to kind of get my fingers back on some keyboards and do some writing and reviews, and hopefully add something to the conversation, because I know that like Ross Holliban, Dan Lowe, Jen Subchakchai, Mark, I know that there are a bunch of others who have done that, and it should be fun. And I'm going into this series with open eyes, but hey, Jude Law and the kids, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I don't think we really have to worry too much about a Pringles can rating for Rebuilding the Galaxy, because how is it not a 10?
Yeah.
Come on.
Again, if you loved this, I just want to recommend your homework before Skeleton Crew. Go back and watch the Freemaker Adventures, which you can find all on Disney Plus. That's where I've shuffled my kids to, and they're enjoying them a lot. It's a lot of fun, and it's as silly as this and has as much fun as this. So enjoy.
All right. And in the meantime, where can people find you online?
Nowhere. I'm too busy at work. No, I am doing my best to still keep up with my duties. Most regularly, people can still find me hosting the Long Take Review podcast with the aforementioned Jen Subchakchai Bankard. What have we recorded recently? We just recorded about We Live in Time, the Andrew Garfield, Florence Pugh rom-com.
Ooh.
And we have an episode scheduled this week to record about Conclave, the drama about the Pope and the selection of a new Pope. And we are really in the heat of Oscar movies cooking up. So I've already seen Anora, which is the best picture frontrunner at the moment with most things unseen. And then we're headed into Gladiator, and we're headed into Wicked, and we're headed into we're not doing Venom, and we didn't do Joker. But there's a whole bunch of fun stuff coming. So people should check out that for Jen's content, and then also the podcast I pop up on. And I'm still reading Wheel of Time with my buddy Tyler over on Through the Glass Columns. Roughly halfway through book 5 of the Wheel of Time series, which it is very funny to me that when I first started plugging that, I was like, yeah, we're in book 1, and now we're 4,000 pages later, and I continue to enjoy that. But that's a fun show. We do episodes on the Wheel of Time television show, or all episodes are available if you want to check out a cool fantasy series and start back at book 1. You got a lot of hours of content. You can fly around the world 10 times listening to us. So help yourself. But a pleasure to see you, sir. I think I'm always glad to get the call because it means we get to hang out and chat a little bit. And I think we're both hungry for that weekly show again, so we can just hang out a bit more.
No, it's great. And it was fun hearing. It was fun, like going a little bit back and forth with you today on the threads. And we're we're always kind of in some of the threads, but it is something where it's like, there is that regular time when we get to sit down and we actually, sometimes we get to invite guests on and have some fun. It makes the show fun. If you all have questions for the Breakfast Pack, you can find us on the show. You can find us on the socials. X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, and Hive at Rebel Base Card. But any rate, so we're going to wrap it up for now. We're going to be back, like I said, either if a major trailer breaks, or at least for episodes 1 and 2 of Skeleton Crew. But until then, We're going to return you to your podcast playlist already in progress. This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Topps, Disney, or Star Wars, nor is it endorsed by Disney or Lucasfilm, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names and sounds and any other related items are properties of their respective trademarks and or copyright holders here in the U.S. and abroad. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com.
That's it.
All right, and very quickly for the after show. This is for the Mary Purdue crowd. You edit a collegiate fashion magazine. I am not leaving this chair. This is an uncomfortable chair, but I'm not leaving until we talk about this because this is amazing.
Well, what's funny is I was asked to come on as just the writing instructor who would purely edit the articles. So once a semester, all the students write the articles. I get a file loaded of all the articles, and then I just edit them, pure copy editing, and I send them back. Sure. However, the fashion faculty who ran the magazine retired. So now I am the only faculty advisor for the fashion magazine on campus. And you can be sure I throw this into any casual conversation I have, right? Somebody compliments my sneakers. I'm rocking some lime green Chucks these days. Somebody compliments them. I'm like, well, I'm the editor of a fashion magazine, so I have to. My wife will not stop rolling her eyes every time I say, oh, well, I'd like to order this shirt because I need to keep up appearances as the editor of a fashion magazine.
No, today...
We bought red carpet special, and I'm like, well, speaking as a fashion editor, I would say that's an okay look. So yeah, I'm in my third year editing the fashion magazine. Award-winning. It's called Polished Magazine, and the students do an incredible job and win top awards at collegiate fashion magazines every single year. Oh, so, wow. Yeah. That's my secret talent. I'm gonna put it in my pocket for 2 truths and a lie in the future.
Yeah. See, so if you're not listening to the entire podcast, you're not catching up on this. And by the way, today's haircut, that haircut was so sharp it could have cut steel. I was just like, and then it came up on my watch, because there was like a reaction to it. I'm like, all right, I'm taking a picture because I've got Greg Cass on my watch in the sharpest outfit possible today.
Hey, when you're meeting with the high levels of administration at your university and you want to move up into those higher levels, you got to look as fine as possible. Keep it crispy.
Yeah, that was. I was joking, half joking before. I'm like, when Project Runway came out, I was glued. I got in about season 2, and I loved because it's creativity under constraint. And if you think about
brilliant.
If you think about the reality shows that have made you still have your Survivors and the Amazing Race or whatnot. The one show I probably would have lost money on still making it is, of course, Big Brother, which is like, why does this?
It's like one.
All the angst that comes in a reality show without them doing anything. You just have to sit there and hate on each other. I'm like, this is the absolute worst. Sorry if that's anyone's guilty pleasure, but I'm like, if you're thinking about it, kind of reminds me of the Toys to Life, right? Now, who would have laid money with Skylanders, with Lego Dimensions, with Disney Infinity, that Amoeba, the
would still be here.
The ones that do the very least are the ones they're still making after all these years, and you're just like, how is this it? So it's like the Amiibos are kind of like the Big Brother of Toys to Life, and they're the only thing holding up that entire genre anymore. But yeah, it's just something when you put that on, like, you're not just going to drop that you're the editor of a fashion magazine and just kind of let it roll off the tongue. Anyway.
Well, and what's funny is, back to Project Runway, my wife watched it religiously I still would watch it. It's a little harder to find these days, but finds it when she can. There was a season, I don't remember what number, with a contestant named Rami. And every week, Rami just did draping. And they complained that Rami's only talent was draping. And so I have used that as a punchline. Like, whenever she walks in the room, she'll be 4 seasons later. I'll be like, oh, is Rami still draping? And now I'm the advisor to some fashion students in a very well-respected fashion program at my university. and there's a full class called draping. And so it's like, I had no idea, like, this is a huge part of fashion and a really important skill and a talent. But I would still joke to them about, like, well, Rami only drapes. And they're like, oh, draping's actually really hard. I'm not sure I'm going to pass this semester.
Yeah, I know. There's like, you have your podcast, bucket list, right? I have Gary Girani, who worked on the top sits. I have Steve Sansweet, who we may be actually talking to. The third one would be Tim Gunn. I mean, like, if I had an hour with Tim Gunn, I'd be like, all right, just, but you think about, like, the Parsons School of Design. I go, that would have been an amazing campus to tour. And it's one of those, like, I've often thought, if ever I go to New York, I'm going to Mood to get one of the bags. And if y'all out there know, like, you can at me on that one, because I'm like, that was just one of those where it's just like, all right, we're going to Mood. Yay.
Thank you, Mood.
Thank you, Mood.
Yes. Yeah. My wife's last job, she was at a bookstore for a number of years and she managed the events, and I would get kind of stuck in a room with a really cool celebrity author sometime. And one of my dreams was Tim Gunn. I was like, he's got to have a book. The most famous I ever got doing that is Alan Cummings came in to sign books, and he was signing books, and he would scribble his name, and then I would flap them and pass them to somebody else who would pack it in a container and then put the container in a box. And he Instagrammed us doing this whole process. So I made it there. The other thing was, this will really be the deep cut. We had Jason Segel come visit. He wrote a kid's book at one time, and Jason Segel was signing books in the back, and I was the only person there kind of passing him books and taking them back. And he was trying to figure out, like, what he was going to do on stage. And he was thinking about, okay, it's a 350 person crowd. And he was saying, like, okay, so if I talk to each person as I sign a book, if I take about 30 seconds, and he was doing the math on how that was like his whole night. And he's like, but 30 seconds isn't long with someone, right? And he turned to me and I said, depends on the person. And he fell out of his chair laughing. And I will, till the day I die, be so glad I made Jason Segel laugh that hard. He signed my Muppets DVD. He sang the Dracula song. I'm done. Like, it was perfect. It was wonderful. But he's my favorite celebrity I interacted with.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we'll let you get back to it, and we'll finish the show. People will go, how come there's like 3 or 4 minutes after the end credits? But see, you never know when we're going to do an after show.
This is what happens when buddies don't get to talk regularly.
Exactly. You're gonna get this kind of show. So anyway, all right, folks, take care.